I want to talk about the dichotomy of monopoly versus the patent system. This is a topic regarding social science, definitely, but it probably touches multiple domains, ranging from economics, politics, legal systems, and policy making. First of all, monopoly. First of all, when I was second year in law school, I saw an elective subject. The name is called competition law. Oh, when I first saw that, I was so startled because the name of that subject looked so uncanny for me. What does it even mean? Competition law, because other subjects, for example, family law is obvious. You have to talk about how do you divide property or custody upon your divorce, and criminal law is obvious. Land law is obvious. You have to have some set of rules and regulations to dictate and control how people own land. But what is competition law? At that point of time, it didn't occur to me that it is important to regulate, to at least arbitrate whether people are allowed to compete or not, whether they compete too much, whether they compete too little. It didn't occur to me that was obvious because I took all the businesses, all the services in the society as granted. For example, when I went to a coffee shop, or when I am buying, for example, I go to a grocery store, I look at the biscuits. Practically, if you go to a big grocery store such as Aeon supermarket, on the trays you could actually see at least more than 10 or even 20 different brands and flavors of biscuits and crackers. But I took all those things as granted. But practically, all those biscuits or different restaurants are actually competing every single day. It's a kind of war, but definitely a very soft one without weapons. It's not armed, but it is a kind of economic war. People are competing to get consumers to buy the services and products. So that is competition law. In United States, people call it antitrust law. The name is a bit counterintuitive. It has something to do with the definition of trust in US, but I will just call it competition law right now. So the whole purpose of competition law and antitrust laws are to prevent people from monopolizing. What is monopoly? Monopoly, the name itself has a prefix. The prefix is called mono. The word mono is one, only one. Hence, the name monopoly implies that in the market, in the society, in the world, in the country, there is only one entity, whether it is one government, whether it is one company, whether it is one canteen, one coffee shop, one grocery store. When you have only one provider, one choice, one option, it is called a monopoly. You might be surprised, why did I mention government? Government is absolutely the most canonical example of monopoly. Government has only one of them, and they are quite arbitrary at times, although there are a lot of checks and balances being embedded in the political and legal system to ensure that there isn't too much of monopoly. But government is always only one entity. Of course, after every 5 years, through democracy, we could change the government, but largely government is a monopoly. So the problem then, for example, kids might ask, what's the problem of only having one provider? The most obvious one, the most local one, I think a lot of people, especially even kids, experience is that in their school compound, in the universities, they only have one canteen or one restaurant. And I think most kids don't question them because if every single day all you go to is your school, you treat that canteen or that restaurant as something you take them for granted. You don't really question what if there is a second choice, a third choice, fourth choice, until the moment all these kids and teenagers graduated and they stepped into the society. Then they realize I myself was like that. I didn't realize my canteen is a monopoly. And as a result, because they have practically no competition, their products and services are really appalling. That is the most canonical example of monopoly. So this is what antitrust laws, anti-competition law is about in general. Governments want to step in, the legal system wants to step in to prevent certain entities, certain powerful entities from dominating, from monopolizing a particular industry. So typically, what these laws do are to first assess and study a Leviathan business in depth, and then they will study their accounting statements, their market share, their past 5 to 10 years of businesses. They would call the CEO, their owners and shareholders to interrogate them. And if they found the legislators found out that those businesses are indeed monopolies, they will, by laws and actually by violence, because if you don't follow my laws, I will imprison you, I will point a gun on your head. By laws, they will break up the companies into smaller companies. The classical example is 100 years ago, Rockefeller, the oil magnate, he had this really humongous behemoth, the oil company, and as a result, the U.S. government confirmed that it was a monopoly, and it broke it up into so many sub companies, and that's why today we have oil companies like BHP, Chevron, and ExxonMobil. These are all babies, of Rockefeller's original oil company. I can't recall the name. And meanwhile, just now I said I'm going to talk about monopoly versus patent system. So from the monopoly antitrust laws, generally we could conclude that people are not allowed to dominate. People are not allowed to be the only single sole provider. However, in the opposite, there is an antithesis. The antithesis of monopoly, of antitrust law, is actually the patent systems, copyright, patent, or the intellectual property systems. If you think about it on the very high level, they are actually paradoxical. Monopoly and antitrust laws don't allow people to dominate. Patent systems and copyright systems exist. The reason d'etre of this intellectual property rights is to let creators to dominate. So under patent systems, whether you write a novel, you design an engineering system, you invented something completely new, you could file and register for a patent, for a copyright, and then you own it for a number of years, 30 to 50 years, maybe even 100 in some laws. Then you own it. When the moment you own a patent or system, so let's say you design a new kind of computers, or a new kind of smartphones that allow people to use pencil to write on it. So you have that system, you register for it, and if the next door, your neighbor, discovers your manuscript, your design, your sketch, and they copy it. All right, you can immediately file a lawsuit to sue them. Not only the endeavor to copy your things would be struck down, and the new businesses will be closed, but they have to pay compensation uh, on the infringement of your patent. That sounds like an exclusive monopoly, right? Once you invented that, you registered for that, you own it forever. Not forever, for 100 years, for example. However, there is a catch. The catch is the moment you register and you obtain a trademark or patent or copyright, you have to disclose your design, your manuscript to the entire world. People are free to inspect them, free to study them, to get idea, to research on them, but however, people can exclusively copy it. All right. So that feels like an antithesis of monopoly, because you allow certain individuals to monopolize a certain design, a certain novels, a music, and so on. So this is the tension. We have these two things. On one hand, we disallow people to monopolize, we break down Rockefeller's company. On the other hand, we encourage people to have creative monopoly, to create something so new. You could own it, you could profit, people can't steal your things. So we have this double standard, and of course, actually, if you inspect closely, these two things exist in a continuum. They are two opposite ends of a spectrum. Why do we have this double standard? Because on one hand, if a single entity dominates a market, and being so rich, they could play the price war. Other people couldn't exist. But on the other hand, if you keep breaking down big players, you keep breaking down behemoth, what happens is you try to achieve this egalitarian idea, like the very communistic idea. You break down all the big companies, no one could be big, no one could profit, everyone is equal. If you try to do that right, the less subtle consequence is that people don't bother to do things anymore, because every single time, let's imagine in an ancient world, right? I am a scavenger, I am a treasure hunter, I like to work, I am a workaholic, I am smart, I'm talented. So every single day I would go and scavenge, I would go and explore what are the new things in nature. But every single time I discover something completely new, a new metal, a new piece of land, a new kind of fruits, and then you step in and use the gun point at me and say I must share whatever I've discovered. If you keep doing that, no one would bother to actually be a treasure hunter anymore. No one wants to do research anymore. So that's why patent system is included. Because you want people to do things, you don't want to disincentivize people to do things. So you want to grant people patents and copyright so that they could reap the profits of the hard work. And of course, however, it is poignant that whenever you get to become too big, people go after you. They would launch antitrust laws on you. So this is generally a very confounding social scientific problem. In social science, generally in law, in politics, you always have opposite ideas that coexist. So this is about monopoly and patent system. Later on, I'll talk about something else: privacy versus transparency, and also the idea of freedom of speech versus hate speech. Okay, so you always have the tension between whether you want to over-regulate or under-regulate. I'll stop here today. I'll continue tomorrow. See you.